Hey guys, so today I thought that I would share with you guys the second part of my eating disorder story, and that is my relapse. Because I've kind of been telling you guys like how I've been doing, but not really giving you like the backstory as to why I relapsed. And also, like, you know, my relapse was just a relapse at the same time. Like, the things I'm gonna share definitely played a part in it, but also I just relapsed because I have an eating disorder and am very susceptible to it when things in life happen. And also I have had an eating disorder for quite a while and just went straight back to that because that's what a lot of my life has been like, is having an eating disorder, and it's what I knew. This is a story I've been meaning to tell you guys, but honestly, I just keep on forgetting, and I'm sorry that I've been like way less active on my channel, but it's because I'm in partial treatment and it makes it really difficult to be a YouTuber. Before you watch this, go check out my music on Spotify. The links are down below. Let's get started with the video. You guys know how I'm terrified to be vulnerable, but I've been gradually getting more and more vulnerable with you guys, so I feel like, you know, we got a good thing going between us, and I've opened up to you a lot. Why not open up some more? So this story actually starts back in November when I was still in residential treatment. I had been in inpatient for a month, and then I was in residential treatment for a month, and I was not supposed to leave at the time that I did, but something came up that I haven't even really mentioned on my channel or talked about it all, really, because it's a really touchy subject, but I think that I'm finally ready to talk about it. So here goes. The date was November 26th, and I know this because it was the day before my grandpa's birthday and my little brother's birthday. I was given an assignment from my therapist to write a letter to my eating disorder, but me being me, decided to write a song to my eating disorder instead. This plays a part in the story, just wait. I'm sorry, it's a little bit lengthy, but I'll get there. So I started writing the song, and as I progressed with it, I started to forget what the tune was. At this point, we weren't allowed to have any electronics at all in treatment, and so I asked for permission to take my phone out into the hallway and record the song on voice memos so that I could remember it later. When I unlocked my phone, I realized that I had a couple of texts from my uncle, and I immediately opened them because I never got texts from him, so I was kind of curious. He thought that I was leaving treatment that day, which I wasn't, and he said, "I guess you'll be hearing the bad news soon. It's devastating to all of us, and I will see you soon." I will put the text up on the screen right here so you can read it for yourself. He lived in Seattle, and I am in Utah, and so I knew something big had to have happened for him to fly out here so spontaneously. And I also knew this just from the context of the text, of course. My heart just sunk, and I immediately knew what had happened. I ran out onto the unit, and I called my grandma on one of the landlines that they had and asked her in a really frantic voice what had happened. She said, "I can't tell you over the phone, but we're about 5 minutes away and we'll be there soon." I asked her why they were driving from such a far distance at night just to tell me something, refusing to admit to myself what I already knew. I fell to the floor, bawling, begging her to tell me, just pleading with her. And then a tech came and got me and took me out into the hall and tried to calm me down, but it did not work. And then minutes later, my grandma and my aunt and my dad and my cousin arrived, and they brought me into a family room. They told me that my grandpa had died. I was hysterical, screaming, bawling for who knows how long, and nobody could calm me down. So they finally had to sedate me. My family tried to discharge me that night, but they wouldn't let me leave. The next day they let me leave, which I did, and I went back to partial treatment about 2 weeks later. His health hadn't been good for the majority of my life, but the timing and the events that had taken place around the time of this, it was just so unexpected. I didn't really even get to tell him goodbye, and I know a lot of people don't get to tell their loved ones goodbye, but I just took it really, really hard. And one of the last things I remember even saying to him was just getting mad at him because he told me that I looked like I had gained weight, and that was the last thing I remembered. That was my last memory of him, and it just made me feel so guilty. And I know that I shouldn't feel guilty because I had no way of knowing that that was gonna happen, but I always make a point of telling everybody I love you when I leave them. I tell people I love them 1,000 times a day just in case that's the last time I ever see them again, which sounds really morbid, but I want that to be my last memory of them. And I know I told him I loved him as he was leaving, but I don't even remember. I just remember yelling at him. He was like my dad. I lived with him. I loved him like a dad. He had my back through everything. He was my #1 support, and he was the funniest person I ever met. I didn't know how to deal with it, and I didn't deal with it. I never talked about it in therapy. I never processed through it whatsoever. I think that that is what initially triggered my relapse. And although I was still doing partial treatment, the fact that I just pushed it down and didn't talk about it whatsoever, I think really affected me negatively later on once I discharged, because it was still there. I was still hurting, and I just wasn't willing to confront those feelings. And that is just one of many things that played a part in my relapse. Things between Gabby and I got very, very rocky. If you know Gabby, she's in a lot of my other videos, particularly my vlogs. If you go back and watch those, she has been my best friend for 10 years. So half of my life, and I've spent almost every day with her. She's my best friend. She's like my sister, and she's like part of me, but things got crazy. She had a lot of mental health issues of her own, and I took it upon myself to help her single-handedly because she's my best friend and I love her, and I just wanted to help her as much as I possibly could. And she didn't force me into the position of doing that. That's just what I ended up doing. And it wasn't good for me, but that was by no means her fault. Many insane, dark, extremely traumatizing things began happening that I can't even talk about. One, out of respect for her, and two, because of the fact that this video would most likely get taken down. Simultaneously, a lot of the people in my life became suicidal, and I felt like I had to save all of them. I was there for everybody except for myself, and it was breaking me. I began realizing that a good portion of the friends that I had weren't really my friends, or I guess they weren't treating me like friends, or like friends should anyways. Eventually, I decided that I needed space from everyone that was toxic, and for me, this was almost everyone in my life. And the thought of not having those people in my life broke me even more. And I was so incredibly lonely. So for months I had almost no one, and things went downhill very, very quickly. I started restricting my food again and was weighing myself 1,000 times a day, had all of the same behaviors. I just went straight back down that path that I was down before. Lost weight rapidly, although I didn't get to the point weight-wise or mentally that I was in before. So that's good at least. I did have to be put back on weight restoration, but not for nearly as long. It wasn't as big of an issue. I don't know. I shouldn't try to make the situation seem better or make it less of an issue than it is, because it's still an issue. My weight does not determine the amount that I'm struggling, nor does it for you or for anyone else. I just want to make that clear. Then COVID happened, and that was just another thing that made me feel like I had no control over anything in my life. And instead of dealing with it like a normal person, I just engaged in all of the eating disorder behaviors in the book that I could think of. And I lied my ass off. Like, I did not tell anybody what was happening. I lied about my meal plan. I formed my whole schedule around what I was going to eat that day, who I would have to eat around, and it was miserable. It was a nightmare. I was just, oh my gosh. Having an eating disorder is horrible. It's horrible. Like, you think it's great, you think that it's helping you, but it comes to a point where you don't think it's helping you anymore, and you just live in misery, and yet you can't stop doing what you're doing, on your own at least. So basically, I had done a full 180. I just went right back to what I knew, my eating disorder. I very, very much so needed to go back to treatment, but things were a lot smoother and quicker this time around. How I got back into treatment is another story on its own. Basically, like, I was just in a dietary session, and I was talking to my dietitian, and then she goes like, hold on. Right? She grabs her phone. Hello, I need to schedule an assessment for Tatum. I lost it. At first I was just like, what are you doing? What is happening right now? Was not happy. Broke down, bawling. She's so sweet. She like ran around her desk and then came and gave me a hug and was just very, very sweet and comforted me, and that is how I wound up back in treatment. I did not want to go. I had no motivation. I wanted to stay in my eating disorder, but things changed and I am doing really, really good. I've definitely had days that I've been struggling a lot. Like, I'm not gonna say I'm doing perfect because that's just impossible, but I think I'm in a good headspace. I'm not going to discharge now though thinking that I'm in a good headspace, so I'm fine, because I know from experience that doesn't work. I do this thing where I'm like doing amazing and then I just plummet, and this time around I'm really trying to work in the gray area and not think so black and white, if that makes sense. So I'm giving it time until I really truly know that I am in a better space and that I can maintain recovery on an outpatient basis. Why you should choose recovery is you feel so much better about yourself afterwards. You don't want your stupid eating disorder. You have confidence in who you are. At least I do. Like, that's what I gained from recovery. I don't give a crap what people say to me. When people mock me, like, I just let that be their problem and go on living my day, because I am confident in myself as a person, and I never thought that I could feel that way. Ever. I just love that. I love that so much. It's one of the best feelings in the world. And I, for the most part, am genuinely, truly happy and can appreciate the things in my life in a way that I couldn't before. And I just have so much more positivity. And I love that. It's so great. So choose recovery so you can have those things. I'm not gonna lie, like, I still have a lot of body insecurity, but I'm not gonna let my body dictate how I feel day to day, what my actions are, how my life plays out. I'm not gonna let those insecurities just have full control over me and my life, because there's no point. I wanna work on my music, on YouTube, on getting a job, on going to school. I wanna do all the things, and I can't do those things when I'm fully invested in an eating disorder. I know I could have been doing those things a long time ago if I had chosen recovery sooner, and I'm not gonna beat myself up about that either. Like, it's totally fine that it happened the way that it did, but I'm choosing recovery now because I want a life. Because a life that is just an eating disorder, it's not anything that I ever want for anybody. You can do it. I know you can. Like, I did not think I was capable of it whatsoever. But I'm so happy that I chose recovery. So just give it a shot, even if your eating disorder is screaming at you not to. Like, I can tell you guys from experience that if you really get invested in it and pour your heart into it, that it can benefit you so much. You will be able to discover yourself as a person, know who you are, and most importantly, know who you are and who you can be without your eating disorder. And that's one of the most amazing feelings in the world, in my opinion. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate every single person that watches these videos. Like, I can't even tell you the immense amount of joy it gives me just reading your comments and your DMs and knowing that I've helped some of you guys. Let me know what else you want to see, if you have any video suggestions, and I will see you very soon. I love you all, and goodbye.